Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for standing by. We'll just ask for you to hold just for another minute or two here while we wait for a few more people to join, and we'll begin soon. Thank you. Again, everyone, thank you and welcome today. I would just continue holding here for just another minute, and we'll get underway in about another minute to 2 minutes maximum while we wait for a few more attendees to join. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Janica, if I could ask you to please move us to our first slide. And welcome to today's event. We'll start off with a little bit of event housekeeping for us. This is a live event that you're joining, so all of you will be muted throughout the meeting, but we will be able to make it interactive throughout the meeting by allowing you to place questions to us and pose those through the chat window, through the Q&A panel throughout the event. When you do that, please list your company name and who the question is directed to so that we can effectively answer those during the Q&A break at the end. Please also note that we are recording today's event, so we will be sending out links to the recording as well as the presentation slides and any resources that we might be sharing today to all of the attendees after the event. Also, if you're having any issues with viewing the screen or the audio throughout today's event, please let us know in the Q&A panel and one of our moderators will assist you. Can please move to our next slide, Janica? I'd also like to start off with an acknowledgement of country. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. The Cloud Collective would also like to pay our respects to elders past and present. You could go to the next slide, please, Janica. And again, welcome to today's Microsoft Teams Taking It to the Next Level event as part of our event series. There are over 4.5 billion Teams meeting minutes every day. That's a tongue twister, as a quote from Sadia. So really a lot of usage now on Teams, and we're glad to be able to have this vehicle to deliver this content to you today. The agenda today will be, of course, starting off right now, myself, Eric Hoffman from the Cloud Collective. We'll also have Janica from Mentari Solution talking about Teams and the momentum of Teams itself. And then Janica will be joined by one of our great customers, Craig Jameson from Development Victoria, talking about the challenges too that we face with teams today. And finally, then we'll wrap up again, as we noted earlier, with a Q&A that Janica and Craig will be helping us out with, and then close out our event today as well at that point in time. Please move to the next slide. So again, my name is Eric Kaufman. I am from the Cloud Collective, the Engagement and Alliance Manager for the collective, which also includes Antares. Janica will be joining us today as Client Executive from Antares Solutions, and then Craig as our Service Desk Manager from Development Victoria, one of our customers on our panel today. We go to the next slide, please. So a little bit of information first for those of you not familiar with us about the Cloud Collective. So we are an alliance of 3 leading Microsoft Gold partners that came together to address the needs of the mid-market. We have complementary technologies and skill sets that really allow us to provide in-depth expertise of a boutique style agency with the actual typical strength and capabilities of a major consultancy. Our goal is to empower our customers to work more productively and really enjoy the tools that they use and get the most out of the Microsoft technologies that they use today, and making sure too that everyone is secure in that. We also are very proud of our gold competencies across the Cloud Collective, which give us a lot of strength both in the Microsoft ecosystem, but then able to take that out to our customer base as well. You can move to the next slide, Jack. So we've realized coming together a little over 3 years ago that we could do a lot more, combining our skills and expertise for our customers and really deliver on the innovative solution promise of the Microsoft stack. When you look at the 3 companies at Antares who are presenting today, really bringing that application layer and above of skill sets into the customer environment. So helping customers with SharePoint, helping them with data and AI and bots and analytics coming into the environments in Microsoft and bringing those into Teams and then back into SharePoint as well, helping customers really figure out how to govern and manage Teams effectively, which is a challenge now with organizations that have had to turn it on so quickly during the pandemic, and really helping again develop that application layer and above inside the Microsoft ecosystem. ICOM set in the middle really of the puzzle to do all of the voice, the video, the rich audio visual components of Teams and of the Microsoft stack, and historically even Skype for Business, of course. They are really working with customers to help them modernize their environments. They're very key now in working with customers as they're thinking about going back to work and going back to the office and how they effectively manage that. And then providing managed services around all those audiovisual and voice elements. And then finally, too, a very strong change management and adoption practice that they've built over the years that's now going across the Cloud Collective offerings as well, which is really exciting. And then finally, Quorum, they set really at that foundational level for us, really helping customers either migrate to the cloud for the first time or take what they've done to migrate partially to the next level. So everything from all the gold security elements in the Microsoft stack, and it's access and identity, threat protection, Azure Sentinel, and also then helping the customer move to the next level with even just making sure that their devices are secure and ready to be managed effectively, and helping them also even migrate from Exchange Online into the cloud, and also managing just that whole cloud transition at the foundational layer. So when you combine all that together, again, the Cloud Collective brings a complete solution to customers wherever they may be on their digital transformation journey, and help them to innovate and move forward in the world that we live in today. So you can move to the next slide, please. So again, I've kind of introduced them already, but Craig, we're really grateful to have you here today. He's the service desk manager from Development Victoria that we've been working with, and we're really excited to have him on the panel today with Janica. And Janica, a longtime client executive for us on the Antares side of the house, doing a lot of great work with our customers now over the past few years, to really talk about what the next flexible workforce will look like, specifically around Teams. So Janica, without further ado, I'm going to pass it to you, my friend, to kick off the good stuff today. I'm not sure. I think you're muted, my friend.
I am. There we go.
There you go, my friend.
Thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. Today, I really wanted to take some time to set the scene for how teamwork has changed. This change has been happening for a while now, but it's really been accelerated due to the current pandemic and what we're facing at the moment. So Teams has played a big part of how that is accelerated. So what we're seeing today is 2 times more collaboration happening. People work on twice as many teams and spend 80% of their time collaborating, and Teams is playing a big part of that. People need to connect and communicate across organizations, not only internally, but also externally, from remote locations, from within the office, from different time zones. Really heightened by the fact that now we are all working in a flexible manner. The diverse workforce. So currently today we have a range of generational preferences in the workforce. We have four generations working. So each of those generations have different expectations, preferences, skill sets, and tools. So how do we provide you with a tool set to actually do your work and work as a team? I think this last point, employee engagement, is what we're seeing really a challenge that we're finding with most organizations. As we work towards a remote and flexible workforce, how do we actually stay engaged with one another, stay engaged with our staff? So in Australia, only 14% of employees are engaged, but the best performing companies have 70% of employees engaged. So how do we actually leverage technology to help and drive employee engagement? Here are some statistics from Microsoft to help showcase the Teams momentum that we're facing at the moment. So 57% of Australians use video and Teams meetings. So again, helping drive that employee engagement, that connection with one another. We're only second to Canada that actually does that. So it's actually quite a nice statistic, and I definitely notice it in the way when we work with one another. Over 500,000 organizations are using Microsoft Teams today. Supported for 53 languages, making that cross collaboration and communication really seamless and easy for us and our customers. 20 customers Microsoft have now with a active user base of more than 100,000 staff. So pretty amazing stats to have organizations with that large of a number user base using Teams. As we can see here, the current global daily active users, 75 million users. If you think back to February before the pandemic hit, we're sitting at about 20 million active users. So you can see how Microsoft Teams has really accelerated in probably the last 6 months. Here's a little bit of research to support some of the topics I've been talking about already. Some research taken back in 2016 and 2017 respectively. I think this research still stands today and makes it more relevant than ever. 80% of millennials, who are the youngest generation within our workforce, have a preference and say that technology will influence their decision to join a company. So what does that actually mean? So thinking about how you go out to market to find people, making sure you have the right technologies in place to make them sway and stay at that organization or choose that organization. I think probably the more interesting stat is that 42% of employees will say that they will leave their organization if the technology is not meeting their needs. I think it's a pretty high number to showcase that users want the best tools in breed to actually get their work done. The last little bit of information is around 6% of time is spent each day searching for information. So if you think about that and multiply that by week, by year, by month, that equates to 15 days per year searching for information alone, and that's one of the key challenges we're finding at the moment. Statistics and some research again that was completed by Gartner earlier this year, right in the middle of the pandemic. 88% of organizations have or encouraged employees to work from home, and 74% of CFOs say they expect to move previously on-site employees remotely post COVID-19. So think about that, what that means for your business. How are you enabling your employees to be more productive? Do you have the right technology and platform and integrated line of business applications to actually enable your staff to be more productive than normal? Have you thought about the change and training impact that is required to have a remote and mobile workforce? I suppose that that leads into is what we're seeing today is the 8 challenges that we're seeing with most organizations and what they're facing with Microsoft Teams. So today's Microsoft Teams challenges and what we're finding. So the first challenge, which is what we'll cover off each of these challenges. In today's world, we have several cloud-based applications and services at our fingertips to consume information, to drive communication, to drive collaboration, to communicate with one another, both internally and externally. So how do we make sure we're consuming the right information and sharing that right information? Challenge number 2, security and compliance. As the world has shifted to leveraging cloud-based applications and enabling those servers to drive that communication and collaboration, how do we ensure that our staff members are safe and our data is secure? Training and change management. As I touched on before, with all the technology shift that's happening at such a rapid pace, the implementation of new solutions, new ways of working, how do we make sure our staff are up to date with those new technology? How do we make sure our staff understand the new processes to make sure that they're the most productive that they can be with that technology we have? Sprawl and duplication. So Microsoft Teams is a central hub for collaboration. It's designed for users to use and collaborate freely in Microsoft Teams. We're finding that organizations are struggling with how do I find that balance of allowing our users to collaborate freely, but also provide some controls around how teams are created. So we're not creating duplicates of the same teams, having multiple storage locations and multiple sources of truth for information. So how do we control that and provide some controls around? What tools to use when? Today more than ever, we have a great number of tools to choose. So how do we pick what tools to use? How do we decide? How do we make sure our users are happy with the tools that we're providing them, allowing them to be more creative and productive in doing so? Number 6 is no approvals and standardization of provisioning. So IT is drowning in complexity. There's so many challenges that IT needs to do. So how do I simplify the process, the provisioning process? How do I create consistency in how my platforms are provisioned? Number 7, easy Teams administration and management. Is there a centralized location, a simplified process to manage the entire life cycle of Teams and the associated services with that team? And lastly, challenge number 8, insight for decision making. How can I gain actionable insights to make smarter, more strategic decisions about my implementations, about Teams itself? So really capturing the 8 challenges we're seeing today in the market, hearing from our customers and partners. Today we'll be covering off how we can tackle or address each of those challenges. We'll hear from Craig from Development Victoria, how they've tackled challenge number 1. We'll have a look at how you can start tackling some of these challenges out of the box with Microsoft, with your licensing today. We'll also then look at what else is out there to tackle some of the other challenges that is not available outside of the box, out of the box in Microsoft licensing. So finding the right information and right answers, challenge number 1. So today, as highlighted in some of the research before, the average amount of time a user can spend can be up to 15 days per year looking for information. That problem is only magnified as we move towards a remote workforce and flexible working. Think of it from a new starter's perspective, coming into an organization where they have to come into and start work remotely from their home or from a different location. They no longer have that touch point with their team, with their staff members, with their managers to ask a question, hey, how do I do this? Or what process do we follow for this? So how do we build a solution that allows that user to find that information quickly, making sure it's the right information that is consistent for them to be more productive? This is where we have a solution called the Ask solution. The Ask solution is an AI-powered virtual assistant that works where collaboration is happening, right within the fabric of Microsoft Teams. You can see from the screenshot there, it's embedded on the left-hand app side pane. So built right within where collaboration is happening. It's a dynamic knowledge base that learns from real life questions and answers. So the more questions and answers it receives, the better it is at answering questions later on. Some of the key points for this solution is it can answer up to 60% of your commonly asked questions instantly. So think about that in terms of how that might help an organization answer questions quickly and consistently. It decentralizes crucial knowledge. It gets that knowledge out of people's heads and makes it freely available for everyone else. It frees up your experts' time, so allowing your experts to focus on other tasks that are high value and high functioning, as opposed to having them work with teams to answer commonly asked questions, etc. There are two unique scenarios in where the Ask solution can help. One, being in a team-related question. You might be part of a team that you want to ask someone for about a specific process that we need to follow. You ask it within that team, knowing that the Ask solution will be able to bring back an answer to you. But the reason for asking that team is that you want to encourage collaboration from your other team members. An example of that is asking for that process. The Ask solution can bring back that answer, but having another team member say and provide their experience and their journey on doing that process, any insights, essentially giving you a more in-depth and better answer every time. The last other scenario is one-on-one questions. So being in more of a private channel or a private discussion with the Ask solution, where you can ask a question related to HR. What is my leave entitlements now that we're in a pandemic? What is my leave balance? So be able to provide more that one-on-one question outside of a team scenario. I'd now like to introduce you to Craig from Development Victoria. Craig is the service desk manager. Craig's going to be able to share some insights into some of the challenges they faced, how they've gone about their journey to tackling this first challenge that we're talking about now. Craig, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
That's good, Craig. Craig, are you able to just give us some insight into what Development Victoria do?
Sure. So on behalf of Victorian Government, Development Victoria works with public and private sectors to revitalise public buildings, precincts, and create new homes. So some of the examples of the projects that we've been involved in Melbourne, in Flinders Street redevelopment, the upgrade of Flinders Street Station, Docklands redevelopment, Melbourne Park, the tennis centre. So we've been involved in that project, but also in regards to housing developments in Riverwalk in Werribee and also Alfie in Altona. So that's sort of a snapshot of what we do.
Perfect. And are you able to share some insight for everyone? How has the pandemic changed the way your company works?
Yeah, I guess like everyone else, we're in, being in Melbourne, we're in total lockdown now. So we're in a good position, I guess, that the fact that we had 4G capability in all of our devices before the pandemic hit. So for us to move into that remote working was, I guess, a little bit easier than others that I've heard around the place. But there were still some challenges in regards to having that collaboration, because it is working remotely is quite different than sitting beside someone being able to have a chat. We've also got the complexity of having staff on building sites. So we've had to be very innovative in regards to going through walkthroughs using Teams and through the video part of Teams, and having a Teams meeting and someone on site walking through different aspects of that.
Perfect. How has that transition been to leveraging Microsoft Teams to enable the collaboration and communication?
Yeah, it's been really good. We had this on the, we were already planned to move to Microsoft Teams. I guess what happened was it was fast tracked. We had a project plan to roll this out. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, it was sort of, okay, well, we need to do this a lot quicker than we had planned for. So the transition was quite well. The uptake was very good. People are really getting the benefit of Teams. We've run some training as well, so everyone's sort of getting their head around how to use Teams and being able to collaborate from anywhere.
Perfect. And are you able to give us some insight into what the challenge was with finding information and what the problem you were facing with Development Victoria?
Yeah, so one of the problem I think is common is having several knowledge bases or several areas where there's a whole lot of information. So we have an intranet site, we have a service desk tool with information. So it's sort of all scattered, that we wanted to try and, as much as possible, centralize that so we can have our staff going to one place to get their answers.
Perfect. And why did you believe the Ask solution, what's called Ask Marvin in Development Victoria, why do you think that solution was a usable solution for finding information? What was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, well, we went to a demo of this and we saw how it worked in action. And one of the things that we were getting a lot of repeat questions, I guess, to our application teams and our service desk that we believe that, and as you mentioned, we call it Ask Marvin purely because our service desk system is called Marvin. So we branded it Ask Marvin, that we wanted a central place that staff could go within Teams, and now that they're familiar with Teams, and just ask those questions so they would know that they could ask a question, they can either get the answer or we could be tagged to provide that answer from a services point of view.
Perfect. Have you found that the solution has been, I know we're in the early stages, but do you envision it being able to be scaled out to other areas of the business as well? Obviously it's using as a services function at the moment. Is there a view that it could be used elsewhere?
Yeah, so we're actually using it for facilities and IT at the moment. We're looking at potentially using it for finance, HR, and potentially legal. So there are different areas that we want to expand this to as well.
Perfect. I suppose the last question I have before we look at some of the screenshots of Ask Marvin, what did you expect the value of the project to be? So what's the return on investment? What does success look like for your team at Development Victoria?
Yeah, a success for me looks like that really from an end user perspective, that staff are able to get the answers that they need straight away. So rather than having to log a service desk call or go searching for information, they know that there's a central spot within Teams that they can just ask that question and get the answer. I think what we'll go through is the different scenarios we have, but that was really what we wanted to achieve. We wanted to push our staff to one place so they can get instant responses.
Perfect. I'll just share some of the shots. Maybe if you're able to give us some context and some insight into the scenarios here.
Sure. So this one, for example, is, someone's asking something like the coffee machine is not working. So some of those things that what we've done is we've put a link in there to raise a Marvin request. Now, a Marvin request is our service desk system. So what we're doing is we're actually asking people to log a call, but rather than going to another system, they can log a call directly in here. So if they click on that link, it opens our service desk system where they can log a call directly.
Perfect. And just for everyone's context, the confidence score as well, based on what everyone replies to, the Ask Marvin solution or Ask solution in the background will actually learn about the questions that are being answered. So when a person is tagged and says this is helpful, the more times it's repeated, that confidence score will be updated and repeated. So if it's not, that gets tagged somewhere else and someone else can then update the answer.
Yeah, and that's even if they click on didn't answer my question, then the service desk guys also get tagged to say, well, okay, I know the answer to that question. I can put the answer in.
Perfect.
Now the second example is a link to a document. So we have a system called Trim, which has a lot of documents that sit on our intranet. So rather than recreating every single question and answer within Ask Marvin, we've put a link. So if they click on that link, it then opens a PDF document with step-by-step instructions in what they're trying to do.
Perfect. A couple more.
This one is pretty much just question and answer. How do I do something? Here's your answer. Straightforward text.
Perfect. I think the last one we have.
Okay, this is the one. This is another one where it sends you to a link. So all you do is click on that document, and that, as I said before, that could link you to a PDF or to a Word document that sits on your intranet or on a file share somewhere.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the insight you provided. For anyone else that has questions for Craig, please send the questions through to the chat and we can go through and answer them in the Q&A. Thank you again, Craig. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
So based on what we've talked about with Craig, that highlights how we've tackled challenge number one of finding the right information, leveraging technology, leveraging Microsoft Teams to create that dynamic single source of truth for information, where a user can go to a platform that they feel comfortable with to ask a question, knowing that they will get a response. Whether it has a response via link to a different platform, whether it's a plain text response with the answer, or whether it doesn't know the answer and tagging someone else in the background to then connect with that person to actually answer that question, ultimately learning that question to be answered next time, is how we sort of close that loop. Now let's talk about some of the other challenges. Security and compliance, training and change management. So how can we leverage your existing Microsoft licenses today to meet and address some of these other challenges? So let's start with security and compliance. So as most organizations today are leveraging Microsoft 365, there are several security and compliance features available today that you can turn on. The first one is the Secure Score, Secure Score. While Microsoft platform is dedicated to providing a secure platform in the back end, there is no preventing any security leaks for the basics not being configured. An example of that is a weak password. I'm going to give you a bad example, 1234. So the Office 365 Security Score is a tool that's integrated within your Microsoft licensing that is essentially the ability to analyze your existing platform and provide insights into your security posture, provide recommendations on how we can improve your security configuration. The next one is around data loss prevention. So as many organizations look to leverage cloud services, as we touched on in a number of different ways today, information sharing has never been easier. We have different platforms such as Teams, SharePoint, Yammer, all these different collaboration platforms that you're able to share information to external users, but also internal. And as an end user, you don't necessarily know what information is sensitive, what information can be shared or can't be shared. So with Microsoft DLP in Office 365, you're able to set up some rules and also some rules and policies around protecting that information. So in the back end, that information is then protected and unable to share based on those different rules and policies that you set. Number 3 is training and change management. So as we've touched on before, there's a number of different applications available to us today. So how do we actually drive that application? How do we drive that training and change management? So Microsoft have several resources available to help drive that training and change program. As platforms change really, really quickly, we don't recommend to build your own collateral. Leverage the collateral that Microsoft create and provide. Use that as a starting point to actually drive your change management needs. So as we touched on, the nature of the flexible working, we don't necessarily have that face-to-face time to drive that training and change services. So it's really important to have some really good content in cloud to help drive that while working remotely. If you still require a tailored program, the Collide Collective is able to help drive it, build a personalized program for you today. So the remaining challenges. We've touched on challenge 1 and how Development Victoria is undertaking the first challenge of finding the right information. We've looked at how you can meet some of the challenges out of the box of security and compliance and also change management training. But how do we tackle the stuff that's not so easily met out of the box? So sprawl and duplication, what tools to use when, no approvals and standardization and provisioning, easy teams administration and management, insights for decision making. So addressing the remaining challenges, we see this fitting into 2 distinct groups. So governance and analytics of how we do it. So if you look, challenges 4, 5, 6, and 7 will fit into that governance bucket, and analytics for finding insights and actual insights into the analytics section. So to solve the remaining challenges, this is where the Collide Collective built a solution called TELUS. So TELUS was born based on the top 3 concerns that we're hearing from our organizations like yourself and our customers. How do I manage teams, creations, stop the sprawl, but empower my staff? How do I manage security and compliance and external access? How do I govern the existing teams that I have? Understand whether I need to keep them. Can they be deleted? Can they be archived? And that's the analytics piece. The R solution is what we touched on today with Development Victoria, so I won't be covering that. So, TELUS for governance. TELUS for governance is essentially collaboration with the guardrails up. Teams is your window into the modern workplace. It connects multiple business systems together. It can bring the other Office 365 services into a single location, but also systems outside of the Microsoft stack. So without careful planning, teams can quickly spiral out of control. So TELUS becomes your central hub for managing, creating, and governing teams that's integrated into the fabric of your teams. So as you can see there on the left-hand side in the Teams app drawer, TELUS is embedded right there, making it easy for people to use and find straight away. So how does TELUS meet some of the other challenges we've talked about? So number 4, sprawl and duplication. So approval process to help stop duplication. So with built-in approvals, this allows users to gain insights into the teams that are being requested, helping reduce duplication of teams that already exist. So as a user, you're able to see what teams are being requested, cross-reference it against the dashboard and say that team already exists, therefore reducing the duplication. TELUS is metadata driven. What does that mean? So it captures the metadata to make decisions about whether teams are active or inactive. As you can see on some of the screenshots, there are a number of different fields to fill in. That's all metadata we captured to help with that provisioning process. So ultimately what we want to do is make sure that we have only active teams active, therefore reducing the risk of duplication. What tools to use when? Users don't necessarily want to be told, want options of what tools. They want to be told what tools to use, what are the best tools to use. So by that, TELUS provides an easy to use wizard style approach that asks them about the problem they're trying to solve, rather than the technical back end of how to set up a team. So this is a more natural process of teams creation, allowing users to get to work sooner rather than having to worry about how we set up a team in the back end. Challenge number 6, no approvals and standardization of provisioning. So TELUS takes the guesswork out of that provisioning process. There are 4 unique templates that have been engineered to meet your most common use cases. The teams, channels, the tabs, the associated 365 services, policies around external sharing are all set up instantly and automatically once approved. Easy Teams administration and management. So TELUS provides a simple, centralized dashboard for day-to-day management of teams. Staff will be able to see the teams that they are a part of. They'll be able to see the different information about that team. They'll also be able to see all workspaces that are available to all staff members as well. From an administration point of view, you'll be able to search for teams, you'll be able to edit teams, delete teams, archive teams, even restore teams. And that's only available today from the admin center. So this powerful dashboard won't replace your team's provisioning process, but work in parallel with it, providing a really powerful view about the insights of your teams and really help drive that management and administration. So the last challenge, and essentially closing the loop for everything we've just discussed today, is how do we gain actionable insights into our deployment of teams? So powered by artificial intelligence and presented by Power BI, the TELUS analytics piece provides a deep dive into insights into how we as an organization are interacting with each other, what questions are being asked, who your key influencers are, who your high performers are, and who's not engaged. So we're able to map and enhance employee engagement. Think about it from maybe a leadership or a comms perspective. As you're pushing information out to your teams via the channels, how are people interacting with it? Is it a positive sentiment? Is it a negative sentiment? Are we creating discussion? Do we need to change our messaging based on the feedback we're getting? We're able to empower our team leaders to assess their performance. So how do people react to direction? How do people react with the information you're providing them? It's a great mechanism for real-time feedback of how how you're working as an organization. See what's trending in conversation through the questions that are being asked within the collaboration spaces that we've created, and also the Ask solution. So to gain insight into the types of questions that are being asked, into what's trending, allows you to make more strategic decisions around the team's implementation. An example of this might be, this goes to the next point about managing change effectively. You might, as part of the change program, identify 4 or 5 influencers who are going to help with the change within the team's rollout. However, with the analytics side of things, you'll be able to identify potentially that there's 3 additional users within the organization who aren't necessarily identified as influencers, become influencers because they use the platform and push out comms and stuff. So that insight allows organizations to pivot and provide additional resources to provide a better experience overall. Things around the Ask solution as well, being able to see what people are asking. Does that mean we need more training for this specific process or that specific new piece of technology? So gaining that insight is really, really powerful to see how our team's deployment is going. So what's next? What options do we have? So based on everything we've talked about today, we typically see that most organizations will fit into 3 different buckets. So as an organization who's not fully deployed and you want to be fully deployed, find out what a planning and implementation project looks like. Find out what the process is to understand how we actually go from conception to deployment to thinking about how we actually, leverage teams to drive collaboration. If you're fully deployed, how do we assess the challenges you have? I'm sure there's a number of different challenges you've already thought about and met, but how do we actually assess where we are with the other 8 challenges potentially, and how do we address it? Get in touch, and we'd love to see if TELUS can help. Lastly is the Microsoft Accelerator programs. So Microsoft provide a lot of different accelerator programs to help customers maximize their investment within the Microsoft technology stack and teams. So get in touch with us. We're able to see what programs you qualify for to help drive that investment. So I think this is the upcoming event series, Navigating the New Normal, which is what we're doing. There is another series still to be had, which is Thursday the 17th of September, and the new workspaces and staying connected. There's a couple of different already, there's other couple of webinars that we've already run, securing the flexible workforce and the future of work and managing the shift webinars, which are available on demand. I think there'll be links provided to us as part of this presentation once we send this out. So feel free to check them out. Feel free to register for the next event as well.
Thanks, Janica. That's great. Yeah, so definitely, guys, take advantage of the 2 webinars that have already happened if you haven't seen those, and then also and encourage you to share them with colleagues and other people that you think might find them interesting, the content interesting there, and then also the last one that we have coming up next week, so which our friends from ICOM will be helping us with. So I think we also had a poll in our Q&A panel, so let's just take a look at that. So we did have a poll we wanted to ask you guys to, if you wouldn't mind, to participate in today, just to help us gauge what kind of challenges you're facing inside your organizations in respect to the content that we've covered today. So if you could please move to the Q&A panel, and it's published there, and you can click on the link and complete that for us. That would be great. We'd really appreciate your feedback. And then in general too, we're ready to move to Q&A, so we'll see what questions we have here. And the first one that we have, which I'll publish, is the TELUS solution. Is it customizable, or are there templates set already for it? So Janica, do you want to take that one?
Yes, absolutely. So TELUS, the TELUS is customizable for every organization. The 4 templates we set are typically around how we see the most common challenges and use cases, but obviously we understand that every organization is slightly different. So the ability to customize those templates to meet your specific requirements is definitely something that we can do.
Excellent. Thanks, Janica. Okay, and are there any other questions that people would like to pose in the Q&A, please? Just give it 1 second here to see if anybody else would like to pose a question. I know it's early in the week and it's Tuesday. So. Just give it just another minute here or so, and then we can. I'm just going to check in with my producers in the background to see if they're seeing anything else come in. Janica, in the meantime, is there anything else you might want to highlight as far as things that you commonly run into questions-wise from customers as they're looking at Teams? I know you've done a lot of Teams quick start programs, engagements, and things like that when we've been helping customers on their, the very start of the journey with it.
I think, yeah, as I said, from where to start, I think the best thing to do is start. Microsoft Teams is a very, very powerful platform. The earlier that you start leveraging Teams, the earlier it is that you're able to adopt some of the other services and features like the video, the meetings, the chat. So it's a pretty powerful platform. But I think, as we're seeing from a lot of our customers, I think taking a little bit of time up front to think about how Teams fits in your organization will provide a really good stepping stone and a starting point for you to make sure that you sort of set yourself up for success. You don't want those multiple locations, the duplicate teams, creating multiple sources of truth and information. So taking some time to think about what that looks like is really important. So I think that's one thing we're seeing from our customers is spending that time up front.
Yeah, I agree, my friend. And something that made me think too of something that we often cover with our customers is telling them and encouraging them to have the right functional heads involved in that initial discovery and those initial discussions, so that you're covering what might be happening in HR, what might be happening in IT, or what might be happening in other departments, sales, finance, and so on, so that those functional heads and functional aspects of each company are being addressed equally across the usage of it. So and very much what Development at Victoria have already done with their first deployment of Ask Marvin, and then what they'll be doing with it going forward from the sound of it, which is great. So
yeah, no, exactly right.
Looks like we might have one more new question here. Let me just see. Yeah, so we've got another question here. They've already started using Teams, and the sprawl has started. So how difficult is it to put that organization aspects back in place after the sprawl has already started? Anyway, you want to?
Yeah, so I think it really depends. I think that it's a having a solution like TELUS is a really nice way for you to retrospectively have a look at what teams have been created. Bring those teams and that information into TELUS will then give you some insight into how they're being used. Are they active? Are they inactive? Really allowing you to then retrospectively apply those governance policies to TELUS as well. So I think that the main thing to keep in mind is that you want to put something in place before it gets too out of hand. You'll be creating more work down the track to actually apply those governance features or policies around the teams that already exist. So having something in place or having a process in place to apply that governance around teams is something you should definitely look at sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Janica. And Craig, a question for you. Would you do anything different now, given your time and what you've done so far with Ask Marvin?
I don't think so. I mean, one of the things that we made sure we did early up was made sure we had enough question and answers. So rather than having it on the fly where we would update the database or would update automatically, we went through a lot of our service desk calls and spoke to our technicians as to what are the types of questions that people are coming directly to them to ask. So in regards to doing anything different, I don't think so. One of the things that we're still continuing to do is around the comms and publicising it, so it is sort of front of mind that if people have, want to ask questions, we're also putting it in, newsletters, we're putting it on our intranet, those sort of things, just to really get people in the habit, I guess, of going directly to Ask Marvin rather than coming to the service desk at the first point.
No, that's perfect. I think that's a really good point you made there, Craig, is that the change management piece and the comms piece is vitally important. It's one of those things that never really stops. It's something that needs to be continuous. Until you change the habit of the users of how to actually leverage it, it's something that is an ongoing thing. So until it becomes the new normal, I suppose, just like Microsoft Teams did for meetings and collaboration, it really takes that effort and change to drive that home with users.
Excellent. I think we might have one more new question here. Actually, no, yeah, we do. And then what do you suggest for customers who are using multiple collaboration platforms? So the likes of not only Teams, but potentially WebEx, potentially WhatsApp, everything that you can think of that's out there today, because of course there's a lot of different tools and platforms out there.
It's a pretty tough one. I think what the key thing is to really understand the platform's fit for purpose. I think while Microsoft Teams is a really amazing platform for doing things, there may be a specific reason why you're using another platform. So I think we're not saying that Microsoft Teams will do everything, but it's really understanding the specific use case for your business and why you're using those platforms. And you know what, there might be some times where you can figure out where we can standardize platforms to meet the same requirement and same need. But I think it really starts with understanding what you're doing today, what the ideal future state looks like, where you want to get to. Does that future look like it has multiple platforms? Once you understand that, we're able to help you navigate what are the steps to get to that overall end vision. So I think the first place to start is, just to really understand your current state and what are the use cases for using these technologies and platforms.
Excellent. Thanks, Janica. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up today. we're going to end a few minutes early, which is okay, but some great questions, great interactions. If you think of anything else, of course, please, when you'll get some reminders and links out from the session today to the recording and everything. So please feel free to reach out to any of us anytime, at any point in time afterwards with additional questions or things you might think of after the session today. But really want to thank Craig for joining us today, and Janica too, for yourself being here and doing a great panel for us and adding some great insight, sharing your journey so far. So that's great. So thank you both for being here, and thanks to everybody for attending today. So, and we'll look forward to seeing you all. Make sure you get registered for next week if you haven't already, and we'll look forward to seeing all of you on our final session next week. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you, and Craig. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.